Hello, citizens of the internet. Welcome all. For those that know me, thank you for sticking with me in another effort into my content creation journey. For those who don't know me, my name is Carlz. I'm, how can you say it? Regular bald geek on the internet who likes to talk about the things I like, which is the most honorable thing you can do on the internet. So this is my show dedicated to comics. I talk about like general popular media. I have another show where I talk about movies and shows, and this is my show where I talk about comics. It used to be in Spanish, but turns out I don't reach the same audience. Like since not every comic written in English, even from the big sort of like publication houses, they don't necessarily get published in Spanish, so it's kind of like contradictory. So I decided to rebrand my comic show full into English, because the reason why I make content in English is because I want to practice my English, which is, as you can tell by my accent, my second language, not my first, which is the beautiful and lovely Spanish. So I've rebranded this comic show to further practice my English, which is kind of like the main objective, you could say. But regardless, this comic show comes into like a landscape full of comic shows and people talking about comics. So hopefully anyone can find some valuable insight in whatever I like to say. My comic show is often shorter. I've recorded some where I go into more length for like a specific subject or topic or character, like Spawn or something. When I want to say something more, like the show gets longer, because the main focus of the show is recommendations, right? Weekly recommendations of the main big publishers' titles coming out that week. So I often go through one news piece and then I go to the recommendations. I try to keep it brief, keep it short. Sometimes it's hard, but mostly it isn't, because the nature of this medium makes it so it goes way too fast, which is personally one thing that I like about it, right? Like, okay, like this hero, this story is not working well, the next one is right around the corner. It's that sort of volume of creation and like the speed of the creation itself, which makes it like an ideal medium, at least for me. I don't want to say that I have like a short attention span, but also I'm drinking tea because it's cold. So if you hear me slurping tea, it's not lack of professionalism, it's just I'm cold. But yeah, I could drink tea before, but like, who cares, right? It's the internet. So let's dive right into the topics of today, or this week, better say yet. So there's been, I don't want to say it's like a big news, but it's some news, right? This coming October, Marvel is sort of like rebranding or like making like an event for the X-Men called the Age of Revelation. So in a nutshell, apparently Cypher, who goes by the name of Revelation now, like the heir of Apocalypse, has this weird plan for the Earth and mutant kind, which it has just begun in the mainline X-Men comics, right? And they're gonna do this time skip into like a possible future, or like allegedly the main future that would occur if Cypher goes through with whatever plan he's cooking up. I think it began in which title? I don't remember. Like, this is the nature of my show, by the way. I'm not here to give you straight facts or anything. I'm more like an opinion guy. And the main opinion I have with this news, with this new Age of Revelation coming in October, is that like I'm a little bit sick of the of the X-Men time jump. It's not even time travel anymore, right? It's more like time jump. They jump all over the place into these alternative realities or whatever you want to call them, right? Like, if you think about what you like about like the present of these mainline comic heroes, right? It's always that there's like a potential for things to happen, not only in that time frame, but alongside other things that might be going on. If you do a time jump or time skip like this, you basically take over different other characters that might be slightly related to the X-Men. What I mean is, if you have X-Men happenings in the present, of course they might run into the Avengers, they might run into, like, I don't know, Spider-Man, whatever. They can run into any other hero. And since they share this moment in the present, their actions matter for each other, right? Of course, comics are a flexible medium, especially like the big two, which of course is Marvel and DC. It's a flexible medium. They can go back on it. They can like retcon, change, whatever. But the thing is, whenever you tell stories about the future, to me, they're not that interesting. They're always like possible futures. Even if they bring the characters back later, like, oh, we travel from the future to the present to do something, and you saw me in this previous amazing X-Men or whatever Age of Revelation title you want, right? It's not necessarily something that it's interesting to me. Not only that, not the recent, but the recently finished Age of Krakoa, right, for the X-Men, also had a lot to do with alternative realities and time jumps, considering that Moira McTaggart had like one of the most interesting mutant powers in the last 5 to 10 years maybe. But they built the whole story around the concept of alternative realities, futures, and that, right? That was the whole base. So I think they're going back into the same. And in the X-Men, like going all the way back to Days of Future Past, like whenever they do time jumps and such, I'm not too keen to it. Because as I said, I feel even if you want to bring them back or have some effect in the present, it's always in a like a parallel way. It's never gonna... What I'm trying to say is that nothing that one of these characters do in the future will never like completely change what is in the present like right away. You know what I mean? So you can read this whole story and like maybe whatever the story is trying to tell will have some effect in the present, but might as well not. So it's this... I don't want to call it like cheap or anything, but it's not the sort of story that I would build, again, a whole event around. Plus, I don't feel like the current state of the X-Men has advanced enough for them to already offer us like a possible future, right? But anyways, I thought they were gonna go back to Inhumans and or like some other group before diving back into like a big X-Men event. But I guess it's coming. It's coming in October, so we're almost there. So, X-Men Age of Revelation has a bunch of titles attached to it. I'm not gonna go through all of them, but it's a whole X-Men event, so there's gonna be like, at least 10 titles or 10 books attached to it. Well, we'll see what's going on. I still love the X-Men, so I might dig into several of these titles anyways. So, that was the news for this week. Let's dive into the first recommendation that I have. The first recommendation is already an already ongoing miniseries by Mark Millar and Rafael Albuquerque. You can see that Spanish is my first language when I pronounce a name like Rafael Albuquerque, right? Which is the follow-up to his series about Huck, This series is called Huck Big Bad World. Huck is the story of this kind of like it's not a superhero, it's not a meta human. I think the fact that this comic is published by Dark Horse and it's not like some DC or Marvel hero helped the first title to have like this really interesting perspective on superheroes, right? Like Huck is like this normal good guy. He's like Superman basically, but way more humble and like way more simple and like a condensed version of Superman without the attachment of the multiverse and anything, right? So there's not much to say about Mark Millar, right? Like what would be the correct pronunciation of his last name? That would be interesting to figure out. Double L's. That's not an English thing, but anyways, so he's a great world builder, and I haven't followed all of his stuff, but the one thing I really liked about him, I always liked about him, is that he's a great world builder, as I said. Which means, in an example like Huck, especially this second sort of story based on the character, is that all the complexities seem to fit in quite well. So Huck is not a very eloquent character, like he's not gonna go into speeches or anything, like, so not much of the story is gonna be progressing through what he says, only about what he does. So in Big Bad World, we are introduced to several other, I don't want to call them metahumans or superheroes, but these are people with special abilities, right? So they get to interact with Huck, which, as I said, is like a simple character, like a humble character. So the world becomes more complex and it grows throughout the interaction he's having with all of these characters. The series is like a really small thing around everything not only Mark Millar does or like Dark Horse publishes, but I really love as I said, the spirit of Huck, in a sense that it's like a condensed Superman. It had like really raw, strong values of good and evil. So having him contrast like against different characters, it's really interesting. It's already the third issue, so I think it's a good starting point, because it seems that every character he interacts with is gonna be its standalone story with a big overarching story going through behind it. So it seems that it's going to be like how can I don't wanna I don't wanna go too much into the future as I was criticizing the X-Men, but I think it's gonna be an interesting experiment, and I like always like Mark Millar's sort of like extreme sort of emotion writing, like in stuff like the Magic Order and such, right? Everything is so impactful and like extreme. I like it. And Albuquerque's art is like, I'm not an artist, so I'm not whenever I talk about art in comic books, I just can go like, it's good, it's great, it's incredible. This one is incredible. Don't miss it. So Hawk by Dark Horse Comics is this week's first recommendation. Second one, so if anyone has seen Superman recently, there's one character that sort of, I don't want to say it became like a breakthrough character, because all of us that follow comics, we know Mr. Terrific, right? We know like how can we say, we know how important he is in some ways. So they decided to do a year one with Mr. Terrific. For those of you that don't know, like when they do this year one stories in DC Comics, they often try to either like retcon or expand the origin stories of these characters. And it was a pleasant surprise to see that they were releasing a year one for Mr. Terrific. I'm not an expert on Mr. Terrific, but I have this constant feeling that whenever he appears on regular DC continuity, he's already this like the smartest man. I think he's like the smartest person in the DC universe. I think, right? I think that is the regular lore, right? So going through his year one is really interesting because basically this is a humble Mr. Terrific, right? Mr. Terrific always comes out, especially in regular continuity, as this like broken character. I mean broken in a sense that he's like unbeatable, which is a little bit how he comes up in in the Superman movie, right? He does gives that vibe in the Superman movie, that he's just like too smart and like nothing phases him because he's that smart. But in year one, we're going. This is already issue number 3, right? We're already seeing his hero origin story, not only of his classic like fair play moniker and like the T-spheres, like, and it's good to see him like that because it sort of give the character some weight, right? I think for Mr. Terrific to be such an important character, and in any sense, in the sense of representation and general lore and relevancy for the DC universe, I think he was missing something like this. Even if he actually had like a lot of comics before, like I love when DC keeps coming and with these year ones and they keep rebringing. I mean, I know there's people that hate the whole retconning stuff, but I love it when they do it because it makes a great jumping point, as they like to say in the comics world, right? It makes for a great jumping point, and it gives the character some it's not hindsight, but it's like bringing their personalities over to the present from the past. I'm not familiar with the author. I have it written down, Al Letson. I'm not so familiar with any of his previous work, but at least by number 3 is issue 3. See, that's why you need to practice. By issue 3, I think Mr. Terrific Year 1 has been super fun, particularly because I like, as I said, seeing Mr. Terrific vulnerable. Like, I think it's gonna bring Mr. Terrific closer to many new readers, and it's gonna make connected with him, which is great considering that apparently there's been talks of either a series or something from Mr. Terrific from the Superman movie, which of course is something that it's always welcome because he was pretty cool in the he was pretty cool in the movie, I gotta say. So I wouldn't mind seeing more from him. So Mr. Terrific Year 1, issue 3, perfect jumping point. Not too many issues to go back to, but the origins of Mr. Terrific. There's some crazy stuff with his partner, like his wife. There's tragedy, there's action, there's more people. So it's all good and fun. Next recommendation for this week. During my Spanish episodes, of course, I've been raving constantly about the current Energonverse, right? That is happening in Image Comics and led by Robert Kirkman. I don't need to introduce Robert Kirkman, but for those who know, is the guy that created The Walking Dead. So the three, see, that's why you had a practice. The 3 titles attached to the Energon universe is Boy Rivals, G.I. Joe, and Transformers, right? Boy Rivals began this new Energon shared universe in the comics, and reignited like really successful takes on especially Transformers and G.I. Joe, right? I might go back to them. I mean, I'm surely gonna go back to them at some point. But Boy Rivals was the first, and it was like a completely new sort of like IP that meant to connect not only G.I. Joe and Transformers, but like create a massive universe beyond what could happen on Earth, right? Between the fights between Autobots, Decepticons, and whatever the GI Joe are doing between them, right? So in both Void Rivals, you have two planets and cultures, Agoria and Sertonia, which are in like historical battle between among themselves. So these are two planets that have been fighting for millennia, and only now it is discovered that there was a third party controlling them, making them enemies. Turns out they are both the same race, being manipulated to fight among themselves. So we are already in Void Rivals issue 21, right? And lore-wise, not much has happened besides introducing the fact that it's part of the Energonverse. Like, we have seen a lot of, I don't want to spoil too much, but we have seen a lot of characters from Transformers general lore, not only robots, but general Transformer lore has appeared in Void Rivals. And it has been quite entertaining to see how like this third external party is like creating this overarching, I think that is the term, right? But it's creating the bigger universe in which all the Energon things are going to happen. And I'm not saying issue 21 is the moment to jump into it, but it's an important issue because now we have reached a point where there's no more delaying. Both main characters have had their own revelations, right? They already have taken their stand on the main conflict of the main plot, and we have reached now the point of no return. With issue 21, now there has to be some sort of revelation in the conflict that is going to happen. Like, it's unavoidable by now. So that's why I'm recommending it. It might not be a jumping point, but it's gonna be a relevant point for anyone following the general Energon universe that Robert Kirkman is leading at Image Comics. The thing that I like the most about Void Rivals, ironically, I'm not too much in love with the characters. I mean, the art is great. The art by Connor Hughes is great. The action and the sci-fi have been really entertaining, but the main appeal of Void Rivals, as I said, is its role as a world builder title for the Energon universe, perhaps the most important and the main one. While the G.I. Joe and Transformers keep having their own conflict back on Earth, this is the real happening, like behind the curtain, right? That's the expression. That like the real development of the overall universe is happening in Void Rivals. And now we have reached a point, as I said, of no return. Something big is coming in Void Rivals, and since it's the main universe creating title, whatever it happens there, it's definitely going to have some effects later in the other two main titles of the Energon universe, right? Being Transformers and G.I. Joe, right? So Void Rivals issue 21 from Skybound and Image Comics. Get it. It's been fun. And the last recommendation, I'm going back to the X-Men. Oh yes, I'm going back to the X-Men. I've spoken about the Uncanny X-Men before out of the current X titles, right? Uncanny X-Men, led by one of my favorite writers, Gail Simone. It's just like it has been one. The best, to me, the best title post the Krakoa era, right? So the whole first story arc was about this group of X-Men down in Louisiana, led by Rogue and Gambit, right? Trying to continue the spirit of the original X-Men, and that has been the main strength. And I think Gail Simone in particular, she creates like really fun groups of people. She gives like a really human and emotional spin to things, right? like she did for Batgirl, which was the first big title I read from her, right? But she did that too in Birds of Prey and Secret Six, all for DC, right? Like these group dynamics were great, so she was a great pick to keep this side of the X-Men ideas, because they have the is it Astonishing, the one with Scott and everybody in Alaska? I think it is. But that other title sort of like kept the revolutionary X-Men idea. So in Uncanny X-Men, the first story arc was all about these new young mutant kids, right? Sort of like trying to keep their teachers into the original spirit of the X-Men, at the same time as bringing them into modern times, right? By having more realistic issues and by having being more representative of modern teenagers, right? So I'm not gonna spoil the first story arc, but it had to do with these teenagers finding out who they are against the backdrop of like a big mutant event that was happening like at the same time, right? So Uncanny X-Men has balance in a really entertaining and fun way. Important events for the X-Men as an overall IP, right? Bringing new characters with fun and emotional, or is it emotional? Yeah, or like probably no, emotive. I think is different. Emotional input, and of course having they shows like the perfect set of all X-Men. Like with they brought like the most full of heart, like the more like how can you say what these characters are, like Nightcrawler, Jubilee, Rogue, and Gambit, even Wolverine. Like they are like the more like they are the heart of the X-Men. These are like characters that to me they always bring this perspective of more like human emotion, and it has been great to see them trying to survive the Krakoa era and like keeping up this spirit, like full of heart. It has been great, and to me, I've read like several criticisms about the current editorial line of the X-Men, but I like what they did, keeping Uncanny X-Men like in this sort of like a more innocent manner, while Scott keeps his revolutionary and more like violent ways, and like X Factor keeping doing X Factor things, so you can always go a step further in tone and everything, right? And to me it has been great. The general editorial of the X-Men franchise has been great. That is one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about the Age of Revelation at the beginning. Like I like what is going on with the X-Men. It's more concise. It's smaller, right? It's more to the point, and I like that. I would like to for these stories to keep going for a while before another event comes in and forces everybody to change again. You know? Oh, we have like Kitty Pryde and Emma Frost team too, right? Like was it that NYX? I don't know. Too many X titles, but every one of them have like found their corner. And Uncanny X-Men has the corner that I like, my favorite corner of the X-Men. Like this, like really heartfelt appreciation for minorities and like for the misfits of the world and the excluded people. But anyways, issue 18 is the start of a new story arc, so it's perfect. It's a perfect jumping point. Like the main people in charge, they're still there. I don't know. I don't. I don't like to know when these runs are gonna end. I don't. It's not necessarily the best thing because suddenly they end and you get heartbroken and like, oh my god, this shit ended, right? So it's not the best thing necessarily to do. So I don't know how long do we have left. it might even be the case that you're gonna open Uncanny X-Men 18 and it's gonna be the end of the whole thing. I don't I don't wanna know. But new story for Uncanny X-Men issue 18. So if somebody wants to go back, the whole run has been excellent, and the role on the Gremile King incident, where like Professor X escaped prison and everything, it was also great. So it has been great. So a new story arc is a perfect jumping point for like basically anyone. So my last recommendation for the week is the Uncanny X-Men issue 18. Wow, it has been great. So that is this week's show. I hope to come back next week with more recommendations. I love comics. Basically Marvel and DC, because I've been reading them for like most of my life. I love these comics. I love these characters, and hopefully in anything that I say, or like in any of my insights, can be helpful for anyone. I try to like find something positive in anything I recommend, but every once in a while I might recommend something negatively, just out of spite, to keep it fresh. So thank you all for listening to me. If you find me and you liked it, and like, I don't know, do all the nice things, follow, like, or whatever. And if you don't like, well, F you too. I'm gonna keep practicing, and I'm gonna keep doing my thing. If you have anything to say, to comment, everything is welcome. And well, see you all next week. Thank you for listening.